was really interested to speak to Tehani today from Femography, which is essentially a tech-enabled clothing brand. We've talked about all the different things you can use for menopause and symptoms and, from the prescription to the lifestyle improvement. This is something that I think a lot of people haven't thought about before.
Absolutely. I also think that so much innovation for, something that we take for granted, like our clothing, our t-shirts or whatnot, is unbelievable. And to hear about this technology is just super exciting. We're so involved with the technology for fabrics for sports or for climbing a mountain in the freezing cold. Why wouldn't there be technology in our clothing that would be appropriate for menopause and its symptoms? Well, let's take a listen and talk to Tehani. Welcome to the Business of the V. Hello, friends and colleagues. I'm Dr. Alyssa Dweck.
And I'm Rachel Braun Scherl. Each week, we bring you the most fascinating investors, inventors, entrepreneurs, academics, and healthcare practitioners who are making things happen in women's sexual and reproductive health.
If you are a woman, know a woman, have a business, or care about your V health and wellness, fasten your seatbelts and listen in to another informative and inspiring episode.
We are so excited to have our guest today, Tehani Renganathan, who is the Chief of Strategy, Marketing, and New Ventures at Femography, which she will tell us about, which is an exciting company that is really making a name for itself in menopause. Menopause is everywhere. Alyssa speaks to patients all day. She's in business in menopause. And every day it seems like we have a new solution. Tell us what Femography is and how you're thinking about approaching the menopause market.
Sure, Rachel. So Femography has over 10 years of experience in the femtech arena. And primarily what we do is we create innovative, cutting-edge apparel solutions for the unmet, unseen needs of women across the world, from your first period through to menopause and everything in between. We are one of the world's first leading B2B apparel manufacturers, specializing in feminine health and hygiene quite specifically. We're also backed by one of South Asia's largest apparel tech companies that manufactures for brands such as Nike, Lululemon, to name a few. Wow. Femography itself is a brand that is inspired by the feminine mind and body. Our goal is to reimagine fabric for an empowered feminine future. And we do so, like I said, by addressing these needs across all life stages. Today, Femography manufactures for some of the world's leading brands, and we develop solutions to help overcome many challenges. We started with periods, and today we're in menopause. And we really uncovered menopause about 7 years ago when we understood that we had developed a fabric technology that could help manage one of the number one symptoms of the menopause, which is hot flushes and night sweats. So, having such a lucrative technology in our arsenal, one that can really change lives, we believe it is our responsibility to really bring it out to the world and help as many women.
So I want to ask Alyssa a question, because one of the things we love doing is talking about this in the context of the actual patients that she's seeing on a weekly basis. So how many patients are coming in, Alyssa, talking about hot flashes, talking about they feel hot during the night and they can't sleep? I imagine that happens, certainly more than once a day, probably once an hour.
Yeah. So if I see 25 people in a day, 24 and a half of them are having these complaints. So it really is quite common. I think that this is such a fabulous idea to have in the war chest, along with medications and, supplements and lifestyle measures and whatnot to help with the symptoms of menopause. And of course, I want to talk about some of the other reproductive life stages that I'm sure your fabrics are dealing with. But can you go into exactly how this works? And, people are always interested in what their fabrics are made of. Are there chemicals involved, and the like?
And as you jump into that, Tehani, what forms they come in. So you're not laying a piece of fabric, you're putting on undergarments, you're putting on a nightshirt. Tell us what form people buy them in, and then if you could explain the really cool 4 different steps of how the tech-enabled fabric is able to respond to the different stages of a hot flash.
So I'm going to speak in the context of Become, which is the B2C brand we launched quite specifically focusing on women experiencing the menopause. So in that context, if you think of it, Become represents an intelligent clothing line designed to really help manage hot flashes and night sweats. Our solutions are backed by science and approved by women, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the study behind that as well. But it is really made from seamless, breathable, cooling fabric that is silky to the touch. And it comes in a range of solutions because you don't always know where the hot flash is for different women. It comes in intimate wear, nightwear, outwear, and shapewear. The complex yarns are coated with the Become's patented anti-flush technology, and that's really our secret sauce. It has been designed and tested to absorb heat from the surface of the skin during a hot flash and then help restore that warmth back to the body when the inevitable chills occur. So if you think of it, the anti-flash technology is constructed using advanced quick dry, quick wick, and temperature regulation properties, which are uniquely combined to really address the 3 phases of a hot flash. And for those of you who may not be as familiar with the 3 phases of a hot flash, it begins with an intense feeling of heat, which results with excessive sweating. And as the body really attempts to manage that increase in body temperature, it tends to maybe, I would say, like over-regulate, and it results in what we call a post-flush chill, as the body really attempts to manage that situation. So our technology works to address these 3 symptoms, and which is why we think it manages it quite effectively. In the first stage, when the intense feeling of heat sort of results and your body temperature shoots up, it tries to cool the skin. It does this with the breathable fabrics made with a flat thread and knitted on a larger cross section that produces a bigger surface area to transfer heat and promote cooling.
I just want to understand. So is this sort of like what it's like a one-way direction fabric where heat or perspiration can evaporate out but can't go in? I saw on the website that there were like 3 layers: the barrier layer, the absorbent layer, and the wicking layer. So is this like a one-way valve, if you will, to allow evaporation out but not allow anything in?
Great question, Alyssa. Actually, it goes both ways. The secret behind the anti-flash technology is that in the first phase, when your body temperature rises, it almost secures that increase in temperature in the fabric itself, right? Then the moisture wicking properties wick away the sweat in the second stage. And then as the body starts cooling down, the heat that is stored, which was taken out during the first phase, is returned to the body, which is why we call it's a thermoregulation function, which really helps maintain and stabilize the body's temperature during that massive fluctuation. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. What's important to my patients, or what I hear, even in the media here in the States, is actually, what is the fabric? Are there chemicals in it that allow this type of technology to function? Are there, or is it, just based on the threading of it and the pores, if you will, in between the threading? Because people are always talking about cotton is the most absorbent or moisture wicking type of fabric. We don't want it exposed to, pesticides. We don't want PFAS chemicals in this. So I'm just curious if how the mechanism of action, is it just the weave or is it something else?
It is a coating, Alyssa, and it is a unique coating within our fabric, which really makes the magic happen.
Wonderful.
So I think that is where the secret lies.
Yeah, this is most apropos and important in my world for the gusset portion of a panty, Okay, because this is number one, and this for people who don't know the word gusset just means the crotch, basically, the part that touches the most intimate skin. This skin is highly absorbent, it's super sensitive, particularly if there are chemicals involved. And that's what I see as complaints in my office with things like just traditional menstrual underwear or things of that nature, because some people do get sensitive or like an eczema almost reaction to certain materials. That was why I was asking, but it sounds super high tech.
So, Alyssa, I guess maybe just to clarify one thing, the anti-flush technology is a fabric that can go all over the body. If you think, and you spoke quite specifically of the gusset, and urinary incontinence is another symptom of the menopause. And we at Femography and also the Become range really host what you call a UI panty or underwear, which has 3 layers, which is a different technology, but it's absorbency and wicking for the purpose of urinary incontinence.
I see. Okay.
Versus, and we have 2 technologies. One is for urinary incontinence, and the anti-flush technology is quite specifically for hot flushes and night sweats, which is to do with sweat.
So here's today's hot flash. Per the Sleep Foundation, up to 80% of women will experience vasomotor symptoms, which include hot flashes in the day and night sweats at night. Did you know that the ideal bedroom temperature for sleep falls between 60 and 68 degrees?
What's really interesting is when we think of technology, certainly in women's health, we're not generally thinking of clothing. And based on Femography's history and experience, you brought the material technology or the material understanding, and then you used the word magic before. It does sound a little bit magical. So I'm curious if you could share if customers, how have customers reacted to this? Are they using it? Are they buying it? Are they liking it? Is this just an idea, or this is already something people can get in the marketplace?
You can already get in the marketplace. Rachel, Become, which is our brand, our consumer-facing brand, has been in the market since 2017. BecomeClothing.com is our website, and if you go there, really, we have over 2,000 independently verified Trustpilot reviews. We have a rating of +4 out of 5, and I think what is really interesting is when you read the reviews, you really understand how this impact lives. When we developed the technology, we knew it worked. We had trials done on it. We tested it in the lab. But what really gave us the momentum to keep going is when we started seeing the reviews. How it really changed lives, not only for women, but also for their spouses. Night sweats is a significant issue. And a lot of husbands also go through this challenge along with their wives. And some of the reviews come from the husbands themselves. So I think the market response has been fantastic. Our return rate is only about 3%. And I think it is the reviews themselves that really speak for the brand and the testament to the technology we have developed.
Amazing. Amazing. I could see this being used in so many ways other than garments, but sheets and sleep clothes, which I believe you already have. I'm curious, does this technology, does this address odor as well? I know that I did see some reading about perspiration and odor. I wondered if this technology addresses that. That's such a big issue for patients.
It does, Alyssa. So I spoke about it cooling the skin. I spoke about it wicking away moisture. I spoke about it restoring the body temperature with the temp regulation. And I think the fourth piece of this formula is it reduces odor. Our cooling fabric has an anti-odor finish that acts as a barrier against bacteria on the skin, really immobilizing odor and locking it in so that the clothing remains fresh throughout the day.
Okay. Is there any detail you can provide for that? Like, I know there are some people who will use copper or silver or, baking soda or whatnot to absorb odor. Is this part of the technology in the coating, or it's something, again, part of the secret sauce?
It is an anti-odor finish that we apply to the fabric and the yarns as it is.
Okay. Again, women here are so concerned with whatever chemicals might be touching their bodies. So that's why I'm trying to get more information, but it sounds like this one's in the vault for, this is the Coca-Cola recipe. Yeah.
So if memory serves, when you launched the products, you launched first in the UK. Are the products currently available in the US? I know that we have a global listenership, but the majority of our listeners are in the US. If they're hearing this and say, this is something that I need, where can they get it?
It is, Rachel. So you can purchase it off the becomeclothing.com website. And it ships to the US as well. So today it is available in both the UK and the US.
I'm curious what other fields of women's health you are considering approaching, because I'm hearing about menopause, obviously menstrual health, urinary incontinence. What other applications might be coming down the pike for your amazing fabric and patent information?
So the femography itself focuses on menstruation. It focuses on urinary incontinence. It focuses on pregnancy. It focuses obviously on the menopause. We also focus on breast health. And almost a segment we're working on currently is also baby health at this point in time, because it's so connected to the female journey. And in every area, Alyssa, we have different technologies. The anti-flush technology is one of our technology portfolio which focuses on the menopause and hot flushes. But within this range, within this entire spectrum, we have tailored and customized technologies for each of the unique needs. So urinary incontinence is one, excessive bleeding in your periods is another, depending on what the challenge you're facing. And pregnancy has its own unique situations. Your blood spans 3 sizes, and then it goes back, and we have technology which sort of grows with your body and then contracts, so that your clothing can be worn throughout, before and after. And obviously we'd love to sort of share that more with you, but it's quite a large portfolio as it is today.
Yeah.
So from what I understand about the company, historically, you provide the technology under other brands. So some of them you referred to, or you basically serve as this secret technology. I think of back in the day, Intel Inside, that the secret sauce is inside the garment. Are you also seeing a lot of interest in the technology from your traditional customers who themselves are manufacturers of apparel, but without the technology?
Yes, so we are a B2B manufacturer. So all our technologies are launched through other brands, except for Become, which sort of went to market directly, because at the time we launched the anti-flush technology, no B2B brand was really willing to start the conversation of the menopause, and launch a line focused specifically on it. So we launched Become on their end. But all of our other technologies are really launched through global brands we work with. We tailor-make our technologies sometimes for their specific needs, and we customize it for them. But we're launched primarily through other brands, up until we launched Become, which took the menopause technology out to market.
You know what I see frequently that I think is such an unmet need in the women's health market is athletic clothing. And I'm constantly queried in media about, is it better to go commando, wear no underwear? Or is it better to just wear like your exercise clothing and do these clothes, because they're not necessarily breathable fabrics, do they predispose to infection? And I'm, of course, speaking about vaginal and vulvar infections. Do you have experience with that in terms of your customer feedback, or in terms of some of your technology where exercise clothing, particularly in the intimate skin, could be helpful in that realm? Because we know that yeast and bacteria really thrive in dark, moist places, and we have not really found an answer to that problem in the exercise clothing department.
So I guess, Alyssa, I'm obviously not an expert in that area to answer, the health benefits of it specifically, but I'll speak to the fabric technology and the apparel itself. We work with a lot of brands that really build in technology into their clothing. So today we are working with a lot of athletic and sports brands to weave in our hands, so that, when you are doing your workout, and sometimes urinary incontinence, it can be stress urinary incontinence, it can be, many forms of it, and when you're exercising, accidents tend to happen. And you have this layer which really absorbs that and really helps manage it in a way which the fabric is developed for that purpose. So it wicks, it is breathable, so that the sweat doesn't become a problem. It manages the fluid leakage, whether it's blood, whether it's urine, whether it's sweat. It manages it in a tested and validated, let's say, manner. And that is how our clothing is designed. If you think of tank tops and clothing, today we have customers coming to us saying, hey, you have this technology which works for hot flushes and night sweats. Why don't we talk about putting that into sports apparel?
Yeah.
So again, you see a lot of these brands come talk to us and say, we love your technology portfolio. Let's weave it into our apparel collections as we launch it with quite specific consumer needs.
Yeah.
That was my next question, was it just seems like it lends itself so beautifully to athletic clothing and that experience because of the sweat and the moisture, because of the desire not to experience odor or certainly project odor onto anybody around you who you're who you might be working out with. So that's really interesting. You said when you launched this, no one else was thinking about sort of this kind of menopause or technology-enabled clothing. We've seen a few examples of people embedding technology in bike shorts for incontinence, and most recently, I saw the announcement of the Sweaty Betty Fertility feminine brand collaboration. So do you feel like what you're seeing right now, has femography been part of this wave?
We'd like to think we were, and to be honest, the jury is still out if we were or not. We'd like to think we were, because we started this journey even before the word femtech was coined as official.
Yeah.
I think that was about either 10 coined it in 2016. We started our journey in femtech in 2014. Started with urinary incontinence, which we launched in a period underwear from there on, and then came menopause as a new kid on the block at the time. So we'd like to think that we were instrumental in really the wave of femtech and apparel within that equation. I think that's quite specific. When we look at apparel and the difference it makes, because you wear it every day, it owns, the largest real estate of the body. Apparel covers everything. And the role we have played in that since 2014, I think, is quite significant and noteworthy. So we would like to think that we have played a role in that journey.
I'm curious, are you in any way part of the inventor of this technology, or did you just become interested in something that was already existing?
Femography and the team behind our innovation team behind it is part of the invention of this technology. Yes. So it's a formulation and a bringing together of multiple technologies to make the anti-flush technology, and our team really was instrumental in designing that.
Yeah. You did talk about a survey or the information you have from consumers with such great reviews. How did you gather that? Is any of this like more of a clinical study type of thing, or more just questionnaires and general reviews?
So the reviews I mentioned is on Trustpilot. It is an independently verified platform for customer reviews, and it comes off our Become website. However, when we did launch this technology, we also did an independent clinical study carried out in collaboration with 3 universities in the UK, namely the Mont University, Leicester, the University of Bristol, and the Open University of London. The study was carried out with 59 women who we invited to document their hot flushes and night sweats. And a lot of the results really helped us articulate our claims behind it, because it is important for us at Femography that our solutions are backed by science and by women. So while we talk to the consumers and we understand their needs and we test it with them, we also need to see what the science says. Because when you think of the femtech industry, in order to build credibility, for us, it has been important that the solutions we develop have science behind it. Today, you see a lot of people talk about stuff. There's a lot of marketing around products, and that could easily almost diminish an industry, which we don't want to do. So whether it's periods, whether it's menopause, we really do a lot of studies behind it.
That's great to hear.
The last question I have isn't really even sexual health related, but the analogy I'm thinking in my head is when you work in the food business, for instance, and it's going to be, you know, higher protein or less sugar, the primary thing that people are concerned about first and foremost is taste. And then they're willing to look at all those other things. So I would imagine in fashion, you know, the first question people have is how does it look before what does it do? You know, I don't think people, I'll speak for myself, I never thought of underwear being able to do something. You know, you're describing, you know, sort of active materials. So how do you include or design or think about sort of the fashion element? Because we also want women to be comfortable and feel good wearing these garments.
So I think that is a unique spot we own in the apparel arena. We bring function and fashion into what we do. You know, we manufacture, and our parent company manufactures for some of the biggest lingerie brands in the world. So bringing that heritage of knowledge and adding the functional element into it is what we've been doing for the past 10 years. So whether it's underwear or whether it's performance wear, we're able to really bring that aesthetic, which makes you feel, I use the word normalcy quite freely, but it really makes you feel like you're everyday versus that you have some form of condition going on. That said, I would like to quite mention, if you look at our Become range, Rachel, and I'm sure you've seen it, it is quite plain. The menopause range by design is quite basic. And the reason for that is because our consumers have told us quite specifically, I don't want me to be deemed as wearing something for the menopause. Yeah. So it's our menopause line is like your everyday tee, like your everyday tank top. So it doesn't have the bells and whistles on it, but that is by design because our consumers were very keen that we made it as simple as possible so it could go to any range they wear.
Yeah, so it sounds like we could right now be wearing clothes that from another manufacturer that have some of your technology in it already and not necessarily even know it.
You probably are wearing a brand that has it. With another manufacturer has it, I wouldn't know. I don't think so.
This is exciting and it's a really different approach. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Yeah. I was just going to say this is fascinating. I mean, you know, with all the people who maybe don't want to take hormones or don't want to, you know, consider medications for their hot flashes, why not really consider something that's so non-invasive and, you know, really could have quite a high function. So kudos to you. And I'm looking forward to see what comes down the pike next.
Thanks so much, Tehani. Thanks for joining us.
Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast at businessofthev.com for the latest trends and trendsetters in women's health and business.